In 2016, San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick sent shockwaves throughout American media when he knelt during the national anthem. His kneeling was reported on by every major news outlet from Fox News to CNN, as well as social media. People from both sides of the political aisle took the time to speak on the situation and either defend or refute its validity. My goal is to persuade you, my audience, that not only did Colin Kaepernick have the right to protest, but that his protest was just and misunderstood. I believe Colin Kaepernick was right in how and why he protested because of these three reasons. It was a peaceful protest, he sought change, and his actions were intentionally misconstrued. Firstly, it was a peaceful protest. The right to peaceful protest has been an unalienable right in our country since the Bill of Rights was published in 1791. He did not disturb the peace, nor did he commit or incite violence on himself or others. By Colin Kaepernick simply kneeling, he is exempt of any accusations regarding a non-peaceful protest. In fact, the gesture of kneeling in itself is one that evokes feelings of reverence, humility, and respect, not violence or disrespect. In fact, the act of kneeling during the national anthem was not Kaepernick's original plan. It was Nate Boyer, military and NFL veteran, who suggested to Kaepernick that he kneel instead rather than sit. In addition to this, he sought change. The reason for him kneeling during the national anthem was so that he could get the public's attention to his cause. Many arguments against Kaepernick were that he should have protested another way, and that kneeling during the national anthem would not change anything. There is never a right time to protest or fight against injustice. Protesting should be done whenever the problem occurs. If everyone waited for the right time, then it would be too late. I believe we can all resonate with this statement after the killing of George Floyd and others. He wanted all people, but especially those of opposing views, to see him and his message. And the anger they felt over the flag and anthem and troops was the same anger that he felt over systemic racism and police injustice. It is true that more minorities of color are arrested than whites in America. The U.S. Census shows that in 2010, of the 308 million U.S. residents, 60.4% were white, while 13.4% were black. When we look at that statistic and compare it to another from prisonpolicy.org in 2010, white prisoners made up 39.1% of the prison population, while black prisoners made up 39.4%. It is clearly a problem worth protesting when 13% of our population is being incarcerated at the same rate as 60%. Lastly, his actions were intentionally misconstrued. Though many people sided with Kaepernick at the time of him making his stance, there were many others that turned his protest into an attack on our nation, its flag, and the troops fighting for our freedoms. This counterpoint to his protest is an example of the red herring fallacy. This fallacy, as we all know, is where a topic of discussion is diverted from by an irrelevant issue. The outrage over disrespecting the flag and our troops was produced as a way to dismiss and discredit his protest. No one that supported Colin Kaepernick's stance was against the armed services or having pride in our nation. They simply wanted change in systemic racism and the police system. These changes would have helped create more national pride, but opposing viewpoints further divided people. Kaepernick himself stated in a locker room interview in 2016 by KTVU that his reasoning behind not standing was to bring awareness to unjust police treatment. We can see now that over 4 years later, the same issues haven't gone away, but are more blatant than ever with the killing of George Floyd and others of color. It is awesome to see the change that is occurring in our country at this time, because people who initially said Kaepernick was wrong are changing their minds after learning the true meaning of the protest. Notable people like Drew Brees have recently come out and apologized for not understanding the true meaning of the protest. He was against Colin Kaepernick's protest until he was informed of the true reason and meaning behind it. This is a good and encouraging sign for our country. Other fellow NFL players like J.J. Watt and Baker Mayfield have taken a stand and stated that they would kneel during the national anthem in the 2020 season. As we come to a close, I would like to state that we are great, that we as a country are great, smart, and overall loving people. We as a country strive to be the best that we can be, and that is why people from all over the world come to achieve the American dream. Now that the social fabric of our country is changing, people's eyes are being opened to Kaepernick's 2016 protest in a new way. They see that it was indeed peaceful, that it began out of a need for change, and that it was not being represented properly in the media in 2016. Our country has a lot to be proud of, but also a lot to improve. We as smart, loving, and great Americans should not look at the two as opposing ideologies, but allied forces in creating a nation that we can all stand for.